Have you ever felt like your players get lost in your world? And when I say lost, I don't necessarily mean immersed. Probably also means that. I mean that most of your sessions end up with you looking at your players saying, "What do you want to do?" And them looking back at you asking, "What do we do?" You're the DM. Now, there's a number of reasons why something like this could happen. It could be just that you're such a sandbox DM that you forgot to actually make a story. Or it could be that you expected your player characters to have more player-based motivations and they don't. They made characters who are down for anything. Or it could be just that you made a plot and your players just seem to do everything else but that. Regardless of the situation, though, here's some questions to evaluate what the solution to that problem should be. In that respect, the first question should always be, what are your players' goals for playing this game with you? To answer that question, you're going to need to answer the three following questions. First, do you know why your players are at the table? They may be just there to hang out, or they're there to actually play D&D and have serious character motivations, etc. Second, do any of the player characters have serious backstory motivations or development? Like, do they have a goal with their backstory? Is it just they ended up there? Third, how much do your players pay attention at the table? For the first one, it's important to think about why everyone is at the table that you're at. Is this a bunch of strangers who came together specifically to play this TTRPG? Or are you just a group of friends finding an excuse to hang out, rolling dice together to make a good time? Obviously, when everyone's sort of a stranger, nobody really knows the vibe of the group, so it's going to be more common to take the game more seriously up front. Whereas with a group of friends, you all have established inside jokes and other things, so those things are going to sort of bleed into the game anyway. There's going to be differing amounts of chemistry based on who's at the table anyway, so making that assessment is entirely up to you, and you should trust your gut there. Don't worry about anything else. For the second one, ideally you would have got most of this information in the session 0, but obviously over the course of a game, a player character's motivations can change. They can have different goals. So it's important to check in with each PC on where their backstory's at, how much does it actually give them motivations to do things in your world, and how far along are they on that mission or goal. And for the third, I know it can be a bit contentious, but it's important to ask yourself how much effort are you putting into the game versus how much effort are your players putting into the game. It's really hard to keep track of really complex plot lines for player characters who are playing another game and listening to you like a podcast. But if you have someone like Marisha Ray from Critical Role who's hanging on your every word, then it's really important to make something that is intriguing, right? It's important to engage that player and reward them for being invested in your game. So it's important to try and find that sweet spot, the place where everyone gets a little of what they want, enjoys the game, and you don't have to pull your hair out trying to prep for it and make everyone as happy as possible. I'll caveat, too, that it can actually be more inclusive to allow variant levels of focus at your table. Some people need that extra distraction to focus more, and others want to hang on your every word and pay attention to everything you do. Either way, it can still be an engaging game for everyone. It's just about respecting where everyone is. Alright, now that we have the proper expectations for how much your players are bringing to the table in terms of content and why they're at the table, you can ask yourself, do they actually have anything in front of them to engage with the story? Whether you're running a very set story kind of game or a very open sandbox kind of game, you can find yourself in the same pickle where your players are just wandering around, ignoring the awesome story that you wrote and going to do other things, or getting so lost in your sandbox world trying to do other things that they're not really putting a story together. They're just sort of doing random stuff and hoping that everything works out to some sort of big conclusion. Either way, it's important to ask yourself this question, either from the lens of, did I provide enough information to the players to follow the story that I'm trying to tell, or did the players make characters that want to tell this story with me? Or from the lens of, did I actually make enough things happen in the place that my players are in around them for them to take interest and try to follow one of those plot hooks? Or on the flip side of that, did I give so many plot hooks that they now have decision paralysis and can't decide which one is more important? The best way to figure this out, though, is to list for yourself all the plot hooks or threads that your players could follow up on, and ask yourself if they are legitimately following those threads or if they're putting them on hold to do something else. And if you find that they don't really know all of them, or they're not really interested in most of them, then it's important to list them out for the players so that they know what interesting things you are putting into your world. I guarantee you there's going to be something there, no matter how many hooks you throw, that they're going to be interested in, unless they don't want to be at the table. Now, at this point, some of you may be thinking,
but what if my story isn't good enough? What if my players don't like me?
it's okay. I worry about it too. In my experience, this is almost never the case. It's more just that either a DM will try to be telling a certain story and the player character's motivations won't align with trying to tell that story, which I find is most common with new DMs and new players, or that the DM will be looking for players to bring that content with their characters to the story, and the players just won't bring that content because either they're not experienced enough to, or that there hasn't been some sort of conversation in session 0 or before that warranted that they do. The third and final question you can ask yourself as DM is, do I know where I'm going? Am I too lost in a world of my own creation? A perilous journey from which I may never return? Sometimes, especially when we're trying to improvise things, we can get ourselves confused. It's really hard to keep track of everything that you're doing at the table, and even harder to remember everything that you've ever said at the table at any given moment, because I guarantee you, the players will somehow. I don't know how, don't ask me. And the best question to ask yourself when this happens is, if things kept going the way they are, what would be the result in terms of the world? If the answer is, oh, nothing much will change and the world will just keep going, then that could be a problem. Or if the answer is, everyone will be succumbed to a fiery doom, then that's also a problem. Remember that when your players are playing, they're playing to have an impact on your world. They're playing to do something important so that they can feel like the hero or the villain or the general bringer of chaos. If the players aren't having any impact on the world, then they're not the main characters of the story anymore. Just like in real life. Ouch. But anyways, that's just a theory.